Hi guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Criminals and Cocktails. I'm your host for this evening, Greg, and I would like to introduce
Chris.
Ellis.
Hey, and again, we're not the criminals, but we do bring the cocktails. Tonight, it is my turn to pick who we discuss, and I came across a murderer that was here in Charlotte. And what really caught my eye was the name they branded him with. And as a kind of a nod to tonight's dinner, he is called the Taco Bell Killer. Ooh.
Leave it to you to find a criminal named after a fast food restaurant.
You know, the Mickey D. Mangler was taken, so I did the Taco Bell Killer. So we'll put this away because we're not doing free advertisements today. But I did want to get you guys kind of the attention on
You did.
who we're talking about. So the guy's name is Henry Louis Wallace. And Henry, he was born back in 1965. Just want to give you a little overview, and I would love for everybody else to chime in as well. But just so you'll know who this guy was, born in 65, and he was raised by a single mother who was categorized as verbally abusive. He did end up moving to Charlotte in 1991. However, Henry had already killed his first victim. She was 18 years old. Her name was Tashonda Berthay.
He was from South Carolina, my home state. Woo.
Yeah, he actually was. So, let's talk a little bit about some of his activities and how he got the name, the Taco Bell Killer.
So, Nora, I think it's better to talk about who he was when he was in Barnwell, South Carolina.
Barnwell. He was raised by an abusive mother.
Now, well,
I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
He was active in the community. He did. He was on cheerleading. He was on student council.
I bet he was near the cheerleaders.
He was on cheerleading because his mom told him he couldn't do football, so he did cheerleading. And then, he was popular, so he was on student council.
He went into the armed forces.
Yes, he did. He was in the Navy.
85 to 88, so he was 3 years there.
Mm-hmm. He got married in 87, and then he gave an honorable discharge in 1988. Now, here we have another connection with the military and a serial killer. I mean,
this is our third episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many have we had that were?
A lot, but we not
There were the three?
we're talking about.
Honestly, maybe three of the three. I don't know if Bernie was in the military or not.
Yeah, but he wasn't a killer. He was.
Oh, he killed 3 people.
Let's just say 3 people are dead because of him.
Yeah, but doesn't that make you wonder? Like, are the military? Do they even look at the mental profile of these individuals? They just give them a gun. I mean, what's the situation here?
They pass the test and they give him a gun.
Yeah, I mean, which is, are you breathing? But I think part of it is the training is meant to be so
Intense.
thank you, that you can survive wartime. I mean, let's face it, that's what the military does. And so you have to be ready not only to defend, but you also have to be ready to attack. Now, Navy's a little bit different. They do attack, but it's not hand-to-hand combat. But you still have that same mentality. So the question is that the problem?
I don't think that's the problem at all, especially not here. I mean, when you think about how he was raised, what he was brought up into, what he's there
to me, the military was just one more thing.
It was just like something else. I don't think he could do too much more. It didn't seem that he had the educational background in order to do anything else. And maybe he was already mentally scarred where enlistment was the only thing for him. So I would say that he did what he did, or he's called what he's called because of his military life. There's a whole lot of crap that happened prior to
There is. He had burglaries and theft and drugs. He had a number of arrests when he was young.
Yeah, he was primarily going to deal with crack cocaine.
But it's just one of those things of I think the question is, did the military make that make
Or-
a bad situation worse.
Did it unlock something within him that was already dormant?
Possibly. I don't know. And I mean,
Well, okay, so a little bit more background on this guy. Why is he a serial killer? And why did they call him the Taco Bell serial killer?
because
quite
he killed
simple.
more than one person.
Yeah, he killed 11 young black women that we know of, that he's confessed to. All were in Charlotte except for one. One was in his hometown of Barnwell. He did not move to Charlotte for almost a year and a half later. And they found her body in a lake. And he kept getting away with it because he worked at a lot of different fast food restaurants, eventually becoming the manager of a Taco Bell. And for those of you that are familiar with Charlotte, there used to be a mall over on Sharon Amity and Central called Eastland Mall. And there was a Taco Bell in that facility there, probably about a block over. That was the chain that he managed at that time.
And I worked at Eastland Mall too.
Well, was it in the mall?
No, but I'm saying I worked at Eastland and I lived literally 2 blocks away. So
Well, be honest with you, who was eating at that Taco Bell? I have.
could I have eaten there? Absolutely.
Oh, I
I mean,
know
it was
I
in
did.
my neighborhood. It was in the neighborhood.
Oh, I had it there.
And I was here. You had not moved to Charlotte yet.
I moved in '94.
You moved in 94. I moved in 88. So I was here. And I do remember this. I did not follow it closely, and there's several reasons why I didn't, and we'll get into some of that later. But it was something that was very disturbing. Maybe is the right word.
I mean, let's think about this. He was the manager. He targeted young women basically between the ages of 20 and 30. Sexually raped a lot of them. However, these individuals he knew because of his job or working in other fast food locations. So he was well known. So there were no break-ins, there were no forced entries, none of that. These women welcomed him in, 100% trust. This is my manager, or whatever the situation was. And he strangled them. That was his number one go-to, was strangulation.
Except the one girl.
Yeah, he didn't strangle all of them.
Well, she was strangled.
But let's just, I'm looking at the victim list here, and I'm not going to do names yet, but let's just kind of go through and see what their connection is. So the first one, we don't know, he just strangled her. We don't know exactly what the connection was. Second was a sex worker. Third one was a friend of his girlfriend.
The other ages?
Yeah, she was 20. Let's go through and do the victim list. So you talked about Tashonda already. Sharon Nance was 33. She's actually the oldest. I'm sorry, next to oldest in his list.
She was killed in '92.
She was killed in 92. She was beaten and murdered. Caroline Love, she was 20. That's a friend of his girlfriend's. And her body was not covered until after he confessed.
Right, but she was also killed in '92, or went missing in '92.
Shauna Hawk, and I remember that name. Shauna Hawk was a Taco Bell worker, and she was 20. Audrey Spain, Taco Bell worker, she was 24.
Yeah, but this guy even attended their wakes
And their
and
funeral.
their funerals. I mean, go ahead.
Valencia Jumper, a friend of his sister. Michelle Stinson, that's another name I remember, former co-worker. Vanessa Mack, I think she lived in the apartment complex with him. Betty Balcom, co-worker. Brandy Henderson, girlfriend of a friend. Deborah Slaughter was the last known victim, and I think she lived in the complex with him. The vast majority of them were friends of his, co-workers of his, friends of his girlfriends, friends of his sister, friends of friends. I mean, he had a connection to almost all of these.
Well, I mean, and think about this too. This case impacted Charlotte in many different ways.
Oh, it
One, it actually put a spotlight on fast food restaurants and a lot of their what do you call it?
Hiring practices.
Hiring practices, but also exactly the procedures and that they had in place.
But a background check wouldn't have caught him. He had not, other than some minor theft and drug. There was nothing major he had been convicted of, so he would have.
No, but he was on crack cocaine and things like that. I mean, come on now,
How many fast food restaurants do drug testing?
This is true. Well, let's talk about the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department.
Okay.
Look how it impacted them. There was so much scrutiny raised at that time around how they were not handling this case properly, and it was reflective upon the fact that it was black women and that the Charlotte PD did not care about that.
But they only had like 7 people working in their homicide division.
Okay,
There's two sides to every story.
So there is, but I think that's and I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to focus on that for a second, because you would sit there and go, oh, well, they're overwhelmed. There's only 7 of them. You would think they could connect the dots going, hey, I've got somebody who worked at Taco Bell that was killed. Oh, so did I. Oh, hang on. You would think that small group would allow for more sharing of information.
But remember, a lot of them were internally, but they weren't discovered until later on. And then they were clearing him. Remember, he was setting up a lot of the people, like the one girl, I can't remember the name, but I remember he
cleaned his fingerprint.
Dealed her in, like they thought it was a suicide or something, and then they found it was a murder. They weren't connected to talk about. Then he showed up at the funerals of a couple, and then the one he took the boyfriend's clothes and put the girl's pubic hair on the clothes so it looked like the boyfriend was there that day, and changed the clothes and took the clothes. And then the one lady that was put in the lake, she wasn't found until a whole lot later. So it's like, it wasn't like one after one. It's like, oh, Taco Bell, Taco Bell, Taco Bell, Taco Bell, Taco Bell. Not to say it's wrong, they didn't figure it out, but it wasn't like that easy for us. Oh, Taco Bell, Taco Bell, Taco Bell. There are these little idiosyncrasies here and there. They were just murders. They were understaffed, and they weren't like really paying attention to all of them. So think if there's 7, and I think they said they had like 100 and something homicides or something on the books at that time. Yeah. So sometimes they don't even investigate them immediately, especially if that cause of death is this, natural causes, or they probably were low income and they were probably thinking, oh, she's a crack whore.
Well, I'm sure there was a lot of arguments on both sides. One of the things they said was so challenging was he was very outgoing, and he could just blend in with any crowd. They said it was very hard to isolate and find him. Plus, because he knew all these women from different ways, it all really didn't connect, because he worked at other fast food restaurants prior. And if he was caught there with fingerprints or anything, I'm their boss. Yes, I dropped this off. I went over there and did this. There's 1,000 different things that could cause this case to be a little bit more challenging.
I think, and I don't think it was just, wow, we only had 7 people. There were 1993 was a high bar for crime in Charlotte. The other thing, and this is, and I am not by any means claiming I know anything, I'm just giving you data. One of the things I did was I said, let me look at the demographics of Charlotte back in the mid-90s versus today. So first of all, there were like 400 and some thousand people in Charlotte in the mid-90s, where today we have almost 1 million. But the demographics in the mid-1990s, the white population was 61% of Charlotte. The black population was 34%. Today, the white population is 39.9, and the black population is 33.6, so it's fairly close. I will say this, being in Charlotte in the early 90s, I will tell you the police did hone in on certain parts of the community to focus on, and I will almost guarantee you that they focused on certain parts of the community to not focus on. I do believe, and this has been claimed for decades, that one of the reasons they didn't get the attention was because they were black women. And you're looking at a city of 61% white, 34% black, and all of these black women get killed, and it just takes a while to figure it all out.
Within a 4-year period.
Not even
5,
that.
exactly 5, but
yeah.
mainly 4.
I mean, and they were in lower income areas, so
right?
I can see that happening. But the police chief at the time was a black man.
Doesn't matter. Look at our Supreme Court justices. Case in point.
and they're not going there. But yeah, I mean, they were in
Just because he was
areas.
black doesn't mean he's going to stand up for the.
They're in low income areas, and they probably were in like, I mean, now if you look up the areas, they're little $1 million neighborhoods, but back then they were places where you didn't want to be walking on the street because you would get murdered.
They were considered lesser citizens.
Well,
They were poorer.
Probably to some
They
extent.
were poorer. They were darker. They were more likely to have been involved in drugs, or in one case, sex worker. They were easy to dismiss.
They were easy to dismiss.
And
yes,
I think the police force did. And again, it was only 7 of them. So I still am dumbfounded that 7 people working in one department. It's not like New York where you have boroughs, and especially back in the 90s, you had Charlotte-Mecklenburg. I think this was even before Charlotte-Mecklenburg joined forces. So this was, I think, Charlotte Police.
No, they call it CMPD.
Yeah, well, they are today. Were they back then?
They said it then, yeah.
Okay.
well, I mean, okay.
Or they called it then. At least I saw it in the things.
The majority of the murders took place between June of 92 and March of 94. He was arrested March 13th, 1994.
Right. After the
And
last 2, because they were in the same apartment complex. And I think that's what got somebody, and I wish I had that detective's name, somebody to say, look, 2 people, 2 days, 1 day apart, they were back to back, same complex. What are the chances that's 2 different people?
And didn't he steal one of their cars or something? I remember.
I haven't seen that.
He stole somebody's car, went on a joyride, and came back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forget which one.
well, it doesn't say anything about that. It does say he was convicted of 9 counts of first-degree murder, multiple sexual offenses, and burglary.
And then he was like,
And then about car
he
theft.
used to be the one when he was talking about it all.
No.
No.
Oh my God. First of all, he was just talking about it all. And he was saying what he did and how he did it. Like, you know, they do the interview and they're asking him, and he was like confessing.
Once I touched him, it's over. There was no way I could stop him.
You saw the like military. If you know anybody in the military, they just have this really bad thing about lying. Or if they are, they're very like structured and disciplined. And he was like, yeah, I just went in and I had to go, and she was there, and I started kissing her, and then she didn't want to do anything else, and so I got mad. So then I just started trying to do more, and she pushed me off, and that made me mad. So then I just strangled her, and that's what I had to do. And then he was talking about the other one. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, the baby was there, and the baby just wouldn't stop crying. So, because the baby was there.
That's right.
And
The baby
he
survived.
tried to stop the baby from crying. And he tried to smother the baby or whatever, and the baby wouldn't stop crying. But luckily, the baby survived. But
It was injured, but it survived.
You could totally see it. My thing is,
Randy Henderson.
when he was talking, you could see the military discipline, but then you could see a total lack of morality, right? And reality, that he thought it was okay because somebody wouldn't kiss him or give him what he wanted, to just strangle them out.
I wanted something, they wouldn't give it to me,
So
and I have the right to take it.
I had the right to take it and take them out.
But you see that a lot with, I mean, even let's look at Keys. We did Keys 2 episodes ago. Same thing. He just felt he had the right to do whatever it was he wanted to do. There wasn't a moral justification that he went through in his mind. It was just, I feel like killing somebody. Let me go do it.
Well, let me pose a question to the group.
I guess it was just him talking about it. It was just, I don't want to say narcissist. I didn't even get narcissist. I just felt he was lost in the own reality of his own. And I think that was based off of the reality that he lived through as a kid.
Well,
He was taught that let me rephrase what I was going to say. He was taught by his overbearing mother that whatever she wanted, he had to do. And so therefore, whatever he wanted, his victims had to do. Is that kind of the...
That one was
People have killed for a lot less, but...
That one was made.
Okay.
Welcome to Arise Entertainment, your gateway to unforgettable play. Board games that spark joyful chaos, tarot that whispers truth and lights your path, trivia that unleashes mythic mayhem. This is what epic feels like. Shop now at Arise Entertainment. Arise Entertainment. We set the stage. You steal the show.
Okay, so question to the group.
Yep.
He was arrested in 94. What about over wastefulness of taxpayer money?
Well, I mean, remember he got like charged with the death penalty and then consecutive sentences on top of multiple. And you know how they do, stack them all on.
Right.
And
He had all kinds
blah,
of
blah, blah. And then he got the death penalty. So, I mean, I guess like he did several crimes and maybe they want him to suffer through it. You know, that's how you can kind of justify that when he didn't just do one and then they gave him the death penalty, because I think maybe he would have been already executed, because there have been other people that have done crimes in his same, if not even before, that were on the death row, and they've already been executed, even sitting in North Carolina. But it could have something to do with how he was sentenced with all these consecutive terms and blah 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 on this one and this count and that count, that he hasn't been executed.
But boil it down.
Well, I think it's,
At the end of the day, we're paying 30-some years already to house this
totally
convicted killer. Feed him, clothe him, take care of medical things, whatever he needs while he's in prison, waiting to be killed.
But you've got...
It's idiotic to me.
You've got a lot of bureaucracy in the justice system. So, and you've also got this fear now that, hey, what if he's innocent? I know, I'm just saying...
There should be some slam dunks.
There should be some slam dunks.
There are many.
You've got the appeal process that goes through. You've got, oh, well, hang on, we've got to go look at this. You've got lawyers that delay hearings because they want to go through and collect more evidence or review more.
People have been born, lived a short life, but 30-year lifespan and then died. This guy is still waiting for us to pay for his execution.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sugarcoat it, you can blame it on bureaucracy, you can blame it on paperwork,
Not saying
you can blame
it's
it on
right.
anything.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying
He's just one in a
But you'd ask how I
vast ocean of many.
felt about it. You'd ask why.
right.
Okay, so how do we feel about it?
I mean, it's wrong.
That's wrong. Yeah. And I agree with you. There should be a slam dunk here. He committed the crimes. He confessed to 10, I believe, of the 11 that they charged him with. That's enough to say,
So
you know,
now
you're going to...
Yeah, but not only do these victims, he still gets to live. 32 years later, he's still alive.
Yeah.
What about the victims' relatives? The children, the parents? When do they get their justice? When do they get their time to say justice has been,
Well,
served on this one?
essentially, he's been in jail.
You're saying that first of all, you're saying or making an assumption that they actually want him to be dead, that their justice was him to be dead. Right. It may not be there, but their justice is, which I don't know them and I don't know how they feel, but I'm just saying that he got sentenced appropriately by the law for what he did, right? And part of that is, death row. And it probably was like a woohoo, oh my God, he's going to be put to death. But should they have to wait forever? No, they shouldn't have to wait forever for him to die. But it may not be that one thing that's giving them joy. They know I would think he's off the streets. He's not going anywhere for a very, very long time.
Well, he's not going anywhere, period.
He
is never leaving that
He's
jail.
locked up.
Unless he's in a bag.
He's never going to have a life. He can't live a life.
Okay.
But so justice has been served to some degree. He's off the streets. His freedoms have been taken away. Yes, he's still breathing, but his freedoms have been taken away. There are some of the families that may be okay with that and just say, you know what, we feel like justice has been served. But I think the point you're trying to make is that's a huge financial burden on the state, taxpayers.
Another level. Okay, now we can open up Pandora's box, but I just want to make a very small observation.
Have we not already done that?
Seriously. The homeless man on the corner. You go uptown, you're going to step over about 4 or 5 of them just going for your car to where you used to work. Okay?
Yeah. Totally.
They have no house. They have no food. They have no, when you look, insurance, medical, anything, nothing. They don't have anything.
And the government does not wish to take care of them.
Don't want to do a damn thing for those people, but
They'll pay
let somebody go out and kill somebody and murder them and slaughter them, even get sentenced to death row, and we're still going to let there put him in a place to live, give him 3 square meals a day, medical treatment as needed, and I guarantee you, recess time, TV, whatever else they get while they're in there. But you still got the homeless people out here that are overlooked, wasting away,
that die in the winter,
that are being treated worse than any criminal that we've ever locked up. It makes no sense to me.
It doesn't, but that's
I'd love to hear some comments from the audience too.
Yeah, that is, I mean, welcome to the modern argument. I mean, that's generally why you have folks fighting on both sides of politics about stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
We can keep a convicted killer alive and pay for him, but not John Doe down the street, who might be a veteran, by the way, because there are a lot of homeless veterans, and he might be a veteran, and we're not going to take care of him.
We've all three been in the financial industry. We know how to take it and look at, like, oh, you've got this many employees, and if you laid off this many employees, what does that equate to as far as savings? Oh, you've got this product, you've sold this many of these, what does that equate to as far as profits? Okay. Let's just look at this one guy. If we take that 32 years expense back,
Mm-hmm.
what could that money have been used for? Building shelters, getting people off the street that are homeless,
Solving hunger.
yeah, but no.
Agreed.
We want to, for lack of better words, oh yeah, they're in prison and we took away their freedom. Did we? Or did we give them a place to live, 3 square meals a day, and recess time and medical treatment and whatever else they need? Hell, there's criminals will tell you now. Why are they going to look good? They've got nobody on the outside. Now they got to go work.
Yeah, I think part of it is you've got the death penalty argument in there. You've got the appeals process in there.
So little Timmy goes to school. Little Timmy doesn't have any food for lunch. Little Timmy takes a gun to school and kills somebody. Little Timmy ends up in jail, and now little Timmy gets 3 square meals a day.
Yes, it's just an awful
Who
setup
needs college?
and narrative.
I just think we really need to
counsel people in your Congress.
It is an imperfect
reference to
system.
how you feel about that.
Absolutely. Go.
It is an imperfect
Go to
system.
Congress, state, and federal. Now, one of the things that I was going to raise, and I don't know, and I probably should check, is whether or not the prison that he's in North Carolina is owned by the state or whether that's been figured
It's
out.
Central Prison, if I'm not
Most of
mistaken.
them are privatized.
I was going to say, so the vast majority of them are privatized now. So, and this is, and there have been documentaries that have included this as well. So what you have is a private business.
But you know what we could do these days? It's the internet. We can look it up.
Yes. But you have a private business. I was going to do that when we took a break for drinks. But we have a private business whose job it is to take care of the criminals and charge the state and or the federal system, depending on the situation. So there's no deterrent or there's no reason for them to push to get him out of there. They're making money off of him. He's their product. I mean, that's their product.
Yeah, he's like a client now.
So they want to push what is it?
It's a state prison.
It is a state. Okay. Well, then there goes that argument.
Let's just recap for 1 second. So we have this gentleman. He was born in '65. He was born in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
By the time he turned 25, he killed his first victim. And a year and a half later, moved to Charlotte. First victim not found yet, ended up putting her in the lake. Now he lives in Charlotte, works at many fast food restaurants. Kills 10 more women between 92 and 94, if I'm not mistaken. Was it? Yes. Well, the vast majority of them. I think he did kill some people in 91 as well. So, works at Taco Bell as manager. Later in his career, that's where he met most of his victims. Trust, whatever. Ends up getting arrested in 1994. Moved to Raleigh. Put in prison. Convicted. Still on death row. 32 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Still being paid for by taxpayers' money. And zero contributions to society. To the families, as far as I'm concerned, still no justification. He's still living on death row, still, getting his meals, everything paid for. No, he don't have his freedom.
Do any of us, though, really?
When I worked at my career, I was at work more than I was ever at home.
So I said.
So it's kind of like your own little prison. Yeah. So,
The only difference is you were making money to take care of yourself. He doesn't have to worry about that.
No, this is true. But the money I was making is going to help him being taken care of.
Yes.
But honestly. So, an interesting profile on this gentleman. Obviously,
If we're not taking a break this yet.
Okay, interesting profile on the gentleman. Obviously, interesting because the name they gave him and everything else, and it happened to be the year that I moved.
But everybody needs a cool name.
Yeah, what was the year I moved to Charlotte? I thought that was interesting. I personally have visited that location. I thought that was interesting.
It's also the year that you and I met.
Well, we can't win them all, but I did want to bring this one to the table. I thought it would be a really cool discussion. I know there's not like a mound of activity or anything else. Thank goodness.
Well, this is one of those cases that is local, so it's of interest to us, but it's not been on 30 different shows. So there's the information that's available is somewhat limited to what we can find on the internet, the Freedom of Information Act, YouTube videos, the few that are out there. So this is not a ton of data, but we've had to mine through various sources to try to pull together a story that we can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your premise is exactly right. I think essentially this is somebody who probably had everything stacked against him growing up. He was black. He was in Barnwell, South Carolina. Again, I know South Carolina. I know Barnwell. The overbearing mother, no doubt, set him on a path going forward. I think we've seen that time and time again.
And then the Navy didn't help.
The Navy, arguably, we can, even if you set that aside, I still think he would have killed. I don't think that started anything. I think it was just a matter of him progressing. And if you look at his history, he started with some of the petty theft and then drugs, and it just kind of grew and grew. But I think there was something, and honestly, and I don't think this has ever been talked about in any of the things that I saw in Ellis, maybe some of the stuff you saw, but I wonder if his anger towards women have something to do with his mother.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm about 1,000% sure that that's exactly right.
Because, you sit there and say, well, okay, and I'm not going to say one's better or worse. There's rape, and then there's murder, and there's rape and murder, and he kind of did both. But why would you kill a woman unless you just had some sort of deep-seated hatred or...
So you should kill a man?
No, I see what you're saying, but
I'm saying
he didn't go in there to kill him. He said it was after she rejected him or something to that nature. For whatever reason, his ego was bruised, and that was enough.
So how many women did he rape that he didn't kill?
That was not discussed.
Were there any? And that's kind of my point.
Well, his arrest record confessed to multiple murders, including 9 in Charlotte. Convicted 9 counts of first-degree murder, multiple sexual offenses, and burglary. It didn't just say 9, so that tells me he had a lot more theoretical.
Possibly. I'm just looking at it and going, he only killed women. So again, look at other killers. They are not so specific. Even Keyes, he did male, female, didn't matter. He just killed indiscriminately whenever he wanted to. Why women? Why young women? And I'm sorry, I don't believe it's because I wanted him and they rebuffed my advances.
Oh, yeah. No, he was having some type of sexual encounter with them.
Was he though?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. This was at the height of his sexual peak.
Well, I know, but
in his 20s.
But he was always going out and hanging out with them and thinking they were together. And there was some type of, not affair, I don't say affair, but like there was some type of sexual something there that he even ended up raping them in the first place.
He thought.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yes, that they did not, all of them.
And that's my point. So why was it, so let's go back to the mommy thing. Is it because I needed this woman to accept me and she didn't?
What if it's a little...
And therefore...
That could absolutely be.
I think his was a crime of convenience. I think he found his victims where he found them. But I'm still going back to...
I hear what you're saying, but I also think that a crime of convenience, I don't think he was like... Part of me in my head thinks he wasn't hunting for somebody to kill. It was,
I believe that too,
that it totally happened in the moment, every single time it went there, and the way his mind and his mental being was, that he had to take it to that point. I don't think that he went to work and said, oh, well, today I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna kill such and such today because she's getting on my nerves. It was, I think she likes me. She invited me to hang out and go smoke some weed. I'm going to touch her inappropriately. She said, no. What do you mean, no? Let me do it again. No. And then it starts a struggle, and then he takes the struggle too far.
Once I touched them, it's over. There was no way I could stop.
Right. And I totally agree with that. I don't think he was, and that was sort of he only kills women. So I was kind of going through and looking at his victims and saying, so let's narrow this down. If I was an indiscriminate killer, if I killed because I was angry, for example, then I would have more victims, more varied victims. They wouldn't all be victims within 5 years of my age that I was social with. I mean, there was a small portion of people that he came in contact with but the fact that he killed them all is A, disturbing, and B, intriguing in that I think, as you said, when you look at it, he thought their relationship was something else. But I think he took that to the extreme because the last 2 victims just lived in the apartment complex. It doesn't seem like there was much social contact there, but perhaps it was, oh, well, they looked at me. They must want me. Let me go talk to them. Well, then that takes off.
Yes, that could be one way, but it could also be another way. You got to remember he was very outgoing and very charismatic, and he was in his 20s. He wasn't a bad-looking guy in his day.
No,
he could have had his,
I'm not going to agree with that.
Conversations and
maybe that might be taste, but he wasn't a pretty-looking thing.
He didn't look like something that was scraped off the bottom of the barrel, like Ellis's last date. But, I mean, we're not going to go there.
I mean, he was not a pretty thing at all.
Your last date?
No. Boy. Whenever he said this guy.
My point is, he wasn't like an obese guy. He was just an average guy.
He wasn't damaged on the outside.
Right. So there's probably a good chance that they talked to him and they could have gone out. And you don't know what happened over the course of those 4 years.
No, but I mean, I think you touched on something too, the drugs. So we're not saying that any of his victims did drugs, but
we don't know that.
In that time frame and that age, it is possible. Perhaps that was one of the social things that he did was, oh, well, we're hanging out and we're smoking or whatever. I do know that he did crack cocaine, so
Maybe that fueled his anger.
choice. And I was wondering about that. Is that, and I don't know if he was doing crack cocaine during this time or not, but could that have fueled? Could that have fed into that anger that he had against these women? Because I mean, and I hate to say normal, because Norm's a guy who lives in New York or whatever the phrase is. The vast majority of people do not kill because they get rebuffed. They don't. So what was different with him? Was it the drugs? Was it the overbearing mother? Was it a combination of both? Was he screwed up to begin with?
Well, he did try to cover his tracks. I mean, look at, he set this one woman's apartment on fire.
So that tells me he, at some point, knew what he did was wrong.
I mean, probably afterwards.
So after it was done, it was probably like, oh, well, hell, I got to get this cleaned up now.
That's probably it.
That tells me he's not crazy.
Comes out off of that trip.
Or not. I mean, no, let's think of a different word.
Insane.
Keep going.
Incompetent. Mentally incompetent. He's not mentally incompetent. How about that? I know right from wrong because I tried to cover up the wrong I did.
I mean, in the heat of the moment.
And tried to cover it up. So he knew it was wrong, and then he did it again. So he's not insane.
Add to our Taco Bell killer, we should do some closing thoughts. Alice?
My closing thought was this monster was made. He had an awful childhood, and maybe he just went on into his life and just thought this was okay. How I see it, this one was made. It's a product of his environment, his childhood. I'm going to say childhood, not even his entire
nurture over nature in this one.
Yeah.
Chris?
He was a bad guy. I mean, I think you know my comments. There's nothing redeemable in this guy whatsoever. While I don't think he was a hunter by nature, I do think he knew what he was doing. And I think he was hoping on just not getting caught. I don't know why he thought the next one would be different. So if the last 3, 4, 5, 6 had ended that way, the next one's probably going to end that way too. So I think there was a disconnect mentally for him. Not sure why. I get the background. I get the family environment. Totally agree with that. And I think that put him on the track at a very early age.
Well, I agree. So at the end of the day, we have yet one more individual in our prisons that we're paying for, who is obviously guilty, obviously admitted to it. 32 years later, we're still paying for him to sit there and wait on death row. I am grateful that he's not on the streets right now, because obviously he had a lot of victims up until he was captured. But I still find issue with him having his life, even to whatever limited capacity it is right now, and these 11 victims and their children and their relatives and their mothers and brothers and sisters. They've got a great big hole where their loved ones should be. But we continue to pay for him to eat, to be clothed, to be sheltered, and to wait.
Maybe you should take them to Taco Bell.
Until next time.
Okay.
Thanks.
This is Criminals and Cocktails signing off.
Bye.